Alright, so, I'm going to be doing my review of Negaduck, the evil opposite. This was a comic that was sent to me by my friend Chris. Chris, thank you once again, brother. And yeah, so this is part of Dynamite's Darkwing Duck series and comics that they've kind of rebooted as of now, renumbered as of now after what, 8-9 issues? Also, I was actually shocked when Chris said, yeah, the Negaduck comic is finally coming out, and I'm sending it to you. And I'm like, holy shit, because again, and I feel like I've beaten this dead horse to as far as I can probably go. The big thing is that, well, I think I've said enough on Dynamite's trades and their, how long it takes to get one. So I was excited to see, I was finally elated to read this. So this comic is written, another thing that got me interested in this, not because it's just a villain comic, because it is focusing on Darkwing's arch nemesis, but the other thing is that it's being written by a pretty reliable writer, Jeff Parker. Jeff Parker's not a comic book name you usually think of when you think of big name comics, but he has done work that has proven himself. He's a very unsung writer. He did the Red Hulk comics back in the 2000s after Jeff Loeb's run, and actually I recently collected all the volumes for Jeff Parker's Red Hulk run. He also did a really cool series in Thunderbolts that involved Luke Cage trying to rehabilitate villains like Juggernaut and the Ghost, and and also had Man-Thing and Crossbones on the team. It was actually a pretty solid series that that ended, I think, a little too prematurely. What else was there? Another thing he's done is, like, again, the Batman 66 books. He did comic books of the Adam West era Batman. Even did the crossover with Archie, and I think he also did the crossover with Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Mr. Steed and Miss Peel. Yeah. So Jeff Parker, like I said, he's a pretty unsung writer when it comes to comics. So it is really cool to see him as a writer get to do stuff like, this. So what is this comic about? Well, first off, Darkwing isn't seen in the comic at all. That's what I found interesting, is that there is no clash with Darkwing. I do imagine, like, in the second volume, whenever we get it, there will be probably a major clash with Darkwing at some point. But for right now, Negaduck is just kind of on his own, and actually has it that he just shows up, and he's just kind of, like, he's been away for a bit. In the Darkwing comics, it basically said that Negaduck kind of took a sabbatical for a while. So now he's back in St. Canard, and he's trying to, like, figure out what to do now. And he also finds out that all of his plans are just so old because he's been out of the game for a bit, that all these he's just basically copying other villains' work. That is, until he overhears some of Taurus Bulba's henchmen talking about a next big score, and the next big score is the Glove of Midas, which is the Midas touch. They actually have this great moment where one of his Bulba's henchmen goes, "Hey, what? Didn't he just have the touch? Was he like some kind of mutant or something?" And they're like, and the professor working for Bulba goes, "Oh, that's a good question. That's a common misconception. When really, it was a glove." So Negaduck hears this and goes, "I'm gonna steal this plan." So Negaduck steals Bulba's hovercraft and goes after on this quest to find the Midas touch. He even enlists Morgana Macabre to help him in that, which I thought there's a clever way of, like, yeah, he even says, like, I'm not after Darkwing this time. I like, if I play my cards right, I'll never go after Darkwing again. So you want to help me with that? There's also I really like how this is only 4 issues and it feels like a complete comic. It isn't like what I had a problem with in the second volume of Darkwing Duck, where it really kind of felt like the comic was just kind of like it ended way too damn fast for its own good. So I really do feel like it did kind of end just a smidge too fast for its own good. I'll also say that the comic does, like, you can really hear Jim Cummings' voice, just like with the other Darkwing book. You can really hear Jim Cummings' dialogue coming out of Negaduck's mouth. There's some great moments in here where he's just kind of like just being an unconscionable jerk. And it's a fun adventure series. I like how they do Midas in this comic. And I also like how how Jeff Parker portrays Negaduck is like, yeah, he's an evil version of Darkwing. So of course he's going to have like the same hang-ups as Darkwing does. In that the dude is just going to be like, you know, frustrated and angry that the spotlight's not on him, just like Darkwing. So I really do appreciate that there is like this kind of like that Jeff Parker actually has this moment where it's like, yeah, he's the evil version of Darkwing. He would obviously have some of Darkwing's traits. Bulba it's also cool to see Negaduck pit against Taurus Bulba, because outside of Negaduck, Bulba was probably the most like brutal villain in terms of like a cartoon show, in like that kind of show. He was a pretty ruthless character in terms of like how far you could take that show. So to pit him against Negaduck was probably Parker's best idea. Yeah, so this was a solid comic. Jeff Parker knows how to write lesser-known heroes and villains. There's some great cameos from other like lesser-known Darkwing Duck characters. It's a solid book, and I'm glad it's finally out. It was really cool to see Negaduck get a spin-off, and it does leave off for a Volume 2. God knows when we'll get that, though. But I look forward to reviewing that in the future. Anyway, so Chris, thank you once again, and yeah, I highly recommend Negaduck, the evil opposite. It's a fun romp, it's a fun little adventure, and yeah, if you love the classic Darkwing Duck cartoon, here you go. Anyway, so if you've read the comic, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.